My name is Jensen. Let's learn some UiPath. Today we will see how we can do API calls and write the results to Excel. It can look a little bit challenging. However, there's no magic. I repeat, there's no magic. And if you can learn this, and you will do if you follow this guide, then you will be a much better RPA developer. So open up UiPath, have a data set, just create some random data, and like mine, and do exactly what I do. And I promise you, by the end of this guide, you will learn everything there is. So, and with that said, remember to subscribe to the channel to get all my new upcoming videos about UiPath and RPA. Let's get started. So our mission today is to look up address and get the coordinates. And for that, I created a data set here. We've got 4 columns and 5 rows of data. We got some names: the White House, President of India, Queen of Denmark, President of Iran, and the Bundeskanzler of Germany. We got their corresponding address where they live. And you can see that these addresses are all in different formats. Some of them got commas, some are just written out, some got postal numbers, some don't. Fortunately, Google don't care. We can just look it up and Google will format it for us nicely. Then we want to look up the address, and then we want to get the latitude and the longitude coordinates so we can work with them further afterwards. So let's go to our browser. You need to create a Google Cloud Platform account. I did. Then we go to APIs and services and credentials, and we will need to create an API key. So click the create credentials here, API key, and you will see that we now created a key here. We can copy it like this. We won't restrict it. I will just delete it afterwards. This is just a demo account. So close here. Then we go to Developer's Guide. And what you need to do is that you need to just search for Geocoding API, maybe Google Developer's Guide or something. Then you will have this. Then scroll down a bit and we'll see that we find a JSON template to we can use. So this one will look up an address, and this one, the address here in question is the 1600 Amphitheater Parkway Mountain View. So from here to there. And then you will see that we need to specify an API key. We can just click here and then we can type in ours. So click here and then Google will ask us, is this your API key? That's correct. So we'll insert it. And now this address, this whole HTTP request can look up the address. We can try that in a browser. So copy everything. I think you can just do here. Yeah. And go to Google, paste in the address. And then you can see that we got a JSON string here. It's actually an array. You can see that with this hard parentheses here. And then we will send an array of one entry in the results. However, we can see that there's a lot of information. We can have the everything about the address, and then we can have our coordinates here. So what we will do is that we need this location coordinates here, latitude and longitude. And there's also some other coordinates, which is the boundaries. And then we got some place ID and everything. So that's the information that we want to use. Let's see how we can easily change this. So say that we want to look up the President of India. So I'll copy this from here. Then we go to our address again. And then in the address, we can just, from after the equal sign to and, we can just paste in our new address. So this one will be it. Let's try to look this guy up. We can see now here, and we only looked up the address. However, it says who lives there. It says that it's the president of the state, and we get some coordinates. We get it's in New Delhi, India, and so on. So that's quite cool. We can use that in our UiPath lookup. So let's go to UiPath, and now we can start to create it. First, we need to click Manage Packages. Then we will make sure that the UiPath.Web.Activities are installed. If it's not, then just go to All Packages and search for Web Activities here. Click it, click Install if it's not installed, and then just click Yes, Accept or something, and then you'll have installed. Now we can make the request. So what we'll do here is that we will search for an HTTP request. That's the package we install. Drag this guy in. And the address, that's just the address that we just created with the Google. Oh, sorry. We need to go to here and copy the address and then just paste it in the endpoint. You can see that everything is up here. However, you will see that we missed something. I'm not sure if it cannot type in so just click OK. And then we can easily ourselves go here to endpoint and check if everything is in. You can see that we miss something, so we need to, that's because it's a long address, so go up here and paste our right address in. Was that right? Let's try to, like this. So now we got the whole address with the key. So remember to do this, because otherwise you'll miss something. So now we can look up something. Let's try to, for the fun of it, look up another address here instead of this default. So let's look up an address in my hometown. So let's take Østerbrogade 100, maybe just 50, I don't know how many numbers in that street. So now we will look up this, click OK. And then we need to write out the result. First, we will just do a write line, dragging a write line, and then we can just up here we will create an output. So go to result, and then press create a new variable. So Control K, and then we can say that will be a string, and it will be a JSON object. You can name it whatever you want. And then we will just write out this string, so like this. So that's it. Let's see how that works. So run the file. UiPath will run. It will make the API call now, and then it will write out the line. So going down to output here, and we can see that here that we actually written it out in the right line. However, we want to work with this data, so we need to do it in a different way. But now we can see that there is a whole true, so everything is working fine. So let's just just delete this right line. So what we need here is to deserialize this JSON string to an object, to a JSON object, so we can work with it. So find a deserialize. Again, this is in the package. So deserialize JSON here. Drag this guy in, and we need an input and an output. The input, as you might have guessed, is the input from up here. So this one will be, the input will be the str JSON object. You can either write it in here or up in the properties. So just type in str JSON object. Then we need an output. That will be a JSON object. So Control K is this one will be a JSON object. Maybe we could just call it JSON object actually. JSON object like this, and we can see down here in the variables that we actually created this J object variable. And then we can start to work with it. So we could have a write line again. Let's just drag in a write line. And we will, first we will refer to this output from up here. That was the JSON object. Be sure to choose the right one, so it's not the string, it's the object. Then press a dot. And then we will use the SelectToken command, because this one, LINQ function will enable us to write out path, so we can write out the results easily. So let's specify that, parentheses start, and maybe we could take a look at how we want to write it out. What's the syntax? How the syntax is. So let's go to our result here. Let me copy everything here, and then open up a Notepad++, and we can see that the result is here. So we got the header here, the first, that's the results, and we can see that it's actually an array, but there's only one result, so this one will be the 0th result, this one here. However, we could have more results, and then we could specify those. And we want to, so the result is the header, and then we want to go down in their hierarchy. So we want to go down to, the next one is geometry. You can see it here that we got the address components, formatted address, and the geometry. Then we want the location, and then we can say that we want the latitude first. So what we need to do here is that we need to go to UiPath again. And again, there's no magic in this. Just try to write it out. You don't have to understand it, because when you do this like 2 or 3 times, you will understand everything. So then we go here, then make quotation marks. We can make one more, and we need to write out the results, and then we need to specify that we want the first entry in this array. That's only one, but however we need to specify it, so that will be the hard parentheses like this, then dot, and then we can choose the next step in our hierarchy. That was the geometry and then location. Geometry, location, and then lat, because remember this was the lat here. And then so now we've written out the command. This one will take us through the lat and it will print it out, and we just need to write out ToString. Let's see how that works. So click OK here. Let's make a lookup again. We can go down to output, and we can now see that we have written out the latitude. So far so good. So now we actually have written out one of the latitudes here. We just need to do everything else. So now you will get the syntax. We could copy this one. So just Control C, Control V. Go to expression editor. We can change this to LNG. That will be the longitude. And remember this, you don't have to remember this. Everything you can just look it up in the results here. LNG here. Try to run this. So now we will get both the latitude and the longitude. Like this. And then we can go down to output. You can see that we will have both the latitude and the longitude here. So that's it. Now we understand the basics, the very basics of making API calls and work with the data. Now we just need to build our case. Remember that we want to loop through all these rows and write out the latitude and the longitudes. So, and by the way, if you like the video, this video, if you find it interesting, please give it a thumbs up. That will really help me a lot. So now let's start to build out the case. So we go to UiPath and we actually build everything. We just need to put it together and make a few more additions. So we'll need to read the data from this Excel file. So this one will be, we need an Excel application scope. We'll have that in the beginning. We need to specify where our workbook is. Let me close it. So I call this address lookup and placed it on the desktop. You can call yours whatever you want. Let's place it on that's here, address lookup. So open. And let's just not work with visible. This is cool if you want to see what Excel does. However, it slows your process down. So just disable this. Then we need to, so now we specify that we want to work in Excel. Then we have a read range. Remember to take the Excel one here. So read range. We want to read sheet 1. And remember to change this if your sheet doesn't have the name sheet 1. And we will add the headers. And then we want to output it to a data table. So Control K, DT, address like this. So now we can go down to variables and inspect that it's actually there. So let us change the scope to the outer sequence like this. So now we did this, and we can now start to loop through each of the rows in the data set. So let's have a for each row here. Drag this guy in, drag it in here. Let's delete this body sequence. I hate a lot of sequences in UiPath, but so just delete this. We want to make a for each row, and we want to loop through this data table up here, like this. And now what we'll do here is that we'll drag up this HTTP request. However, now we will just have a static address to look up. So what we'll need to do is that we need to fine-tune the endpoint. So click the expression editor up here. And then instead of this address here, from here to there, make sure that it's after the equal sign and before the and. We will put out a quotation mark and then plus. And then we will have the row, item, parentheses, address, parentheses end, quotation mark, parentheses end, to string. Oh, sorry. Where am I? Here. To... let me just here string, and then a plus sign more, and then a quotation mark. So now what this does is that we loop through each of the addresses, and it will put it in here, so it automatically put the address here in the endpoint. So now we made all the requests. Then we need to write on. Let us just let me open the Excel sheet again, so that we can inspect the data. Because now we want to write in the Excel sheet. So and first we will do the Deserialize JSON like we did before. So let's drag this guy up. So it's in here, and instead of write out lines, we will just write cells. It will be the same concept as before. We need to write out the latitudes in the C column and the longitude in the D column. So and for doing this, this one is the first for each row. This is here in the second. But however, when this one loops through, it doesn't loop through the header. And remember that it's 0 index. So this one is number 0. That's the first times it took. So we can create up here for each row in the output, we can create an index variable. So Control K, int index, like this. So now we created a variable that counts whenever we go through each of these rows. So the first row, that will be then this guy will be 0. However, remember, just let me repeat. So this guy will be 0 even though it's in row 2 in the Excel sheet. That's because that's the first row that we loop through. So I hope you get that right. And we can use that. So let's find a right cell and take the Excel one and just drag this guy in here. So we want to write it into sheet 1. That's okay, because our sheet is named sheet 1. Then what we want to write, we just want to write this guy in here because that's the latitude. So let's go up here, copy it, and click in here, paste it in. So now we write in the longitude, and here we won't write it in A1. We want to write it in the C and then the corresponding row. So let's C here, and then plus, and then we need to specify what number it is. And what we'll do here is that we need to, so whenever when we're here in the we need to in the C2, but that's the index is 0 because that's the first row. So what we'll do here is that, let me open the expression editor. We need to do an addition to the index variable, so that will be we'll just cint. Then we can make an addition, so int index, and then we want to add 2, and then ToString, like this. Click OK, and now we've done this. We can check if that works. So now we just write out all the latitudes. So let's close this one down. Let's try to run it here, and we will see that. Let's run it. What takes a long time here is not the API call, is that the work in Excel actually, believe it or not. So yeah, I'll have a sip of coffee while we wait, and now we're done. So we can expect the data. So let's go down to the address lookup and check if we have written in the latitudes. We open the Excel sheet, and what we need to do here is, of course, write in the longitude. So now we can see that we got the latitudes nicely and they're easily written in. So let's close this one down. Let's fix the rest, and we will just copy this right cell, paste it in. So now we'll just, and then we will go to first our expression, that will be this right line from down here. So copy it, delete whatever in here, and paste the new guy in here. And we need to paste that into the D column, right? Like this. And now we can just delete those two right lines because we got them up here in the cell. So let's delete this. And we can actually see that it's quite a simple workflow. We got an Excel scope, and then we got it for each row. Let's run this. UiPath will run, and again we can have a sip of coffee while we wait. And while we wait to enjoy our beautiful result, and that we hopefully solved the case. And don't remember to subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the video, to get all the future videos. So we will wait a few seconds more, and again, it's really not the API that's slow, it's the Excel. So now let's go down here, let's go to the address lookup, and you can see here that we, in a second, that we actually have these nice longitude as well. So now we got the coordinates, and now we can work with it. So this one is really clever. It runs automatically instead of our robot clicking through. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a good day. Bye bye.